Welcome to XIO Voice. Continuing from the previous episode 209. Xiao Yan's eyes paused on the purple-colored metal fan, after which, he slowly turned his head. There was a white-clothed, young man with a warm smile behind the fan. However, this smile contained a sinister aura no matter how one looked at it. Three old fellows stood close behind this white-clothed, young man. Xiao Yan's eyes swept over the bodies of the three before they solidified. The two old men toward the back had a vast and mighty aura. Their strengths should have reached that of 8-star Do Zong's. On the other hand, the elder who was standing at the front caused Xiao Yan's heart to be surprised. Do Zun. This elder appeared a little lazy. His hands were inserted into his sleeves, appearing similar to that of an ordinary old fellow. However, with Xiao Yan's sharp spiritual perception, he could sense that this person's strength had reached the Do Zun class. The sudden intervention of the white-clothed, young man had caused numerous surprised gazes to be thrown over from the surroundings. Surprise flashed across their eyes when they saw the three old men standing behind him. From the way the young man could bring along such a lineup, it seemed that the background of this group was quite strong. KK, this friend. I can pay you double the price that you have given over. However, can you give this copper plate to me? The white-clothed, young man smiled at Xiao Yan. The purple-colored metal fan in his hand was tightly pinned against the copper plate. He did not show any signs of releasing it. Xiao Yan's eyes stared at the white-clothed, young man. A moment later, he slowly shook his head and faintly said, "No." After uttering those words, he curled both of his fingers and gently flicked at the purple-colored fan in a lightning-like manner. A hidden force suddenly erupted and shook the fan until it shifted aside. After which, Xiao Yan's hand moved like lightning and grabbed the copper plate. Xiao Yan's sudden attack caused the eyes of the white-clothed, young man to turn slightly chilly. The young man's counterattack was not the least bit slow. His finger flicked his fan. With a puff sound, the purple-colored fan opened. The surface of the fan cut at Xiao Yan's hand like blades. That sharp aura cut the space itself until slight crack lines formed. Xiao Yan's expression did not change because of the white-clothed, young man's vicious retaliation. Xiao Yan flicked his finger on the copper plate and suddenly swept it back. His finger turned into a palm, carrying a vast and mighty strength as it violently smashed into the purple-colored fan. Bang! A low and deep noise resounded over the floor. Under this palm, the purple-colored metal fan appeared to heavily press into the jade platform. Before the white-clothed, young man could pull it back, a flying leg filled with strength swung toward the face of the white-clothed man like a hanging antelope's leg. The face of the white-clothed, young man slightly sank when he saw the swinging leg of Xiao Yan, which was filled with strength. However, he could only release the metal fan at this moment. He took 2 continuous steps back before dodging Xiao Yan's leg. Brat, how presumptuous! The 2 elders behind the white-clothed, young man, with 8-star Do Zong's strengths, faces sank the moment the young man stepped back. They strode forward and appeared in front of the young man. Both of their hands were just like eagle claws as they grabbed toward Xiao Yan's shoulders. The 2 of them were just about to attack when the little fairy doctor and Tianhuo Zun Jie slowly appeared in front of Xiao Yan in ghost-like fashions. The little fairy doctor coldly laughed. She flicked her finger and 2 wisps of grayish vapor shot out. Be careful. The lazy-looking elder, who had not intervened, expression changed in the face of these 2 wisps of ordinary-looking grayish vapor. Both of his hands were clenched and space itself distorted until it solidified. After which, it blocked the 2 wisps of grayish vapor. Although the grayish vapor was blocked, there was still a faint stench that entered the nostrils of the 2 old men. Immediately, the Do Qi within their bodies fluctuated in a chaotic fashion. Their faces were shocked as they hurriedly stepped back, suppressing the uprising of the Do Qi in their bodies as they did so. Why? Are you intending to snatch it by force? The little fairy doctor faintly asked. She glanced at the white-clothed, young man and the old man, who had distorted space, after teaching the remaining 2 old fellows a lesson. The 2 old men were pulled back by the lazy-looking elder before they realized the situation in front of them. Some cold sweat appeared on their foreheads. Although the 2 of them were quite strong, they were able to sense the frightening strength of the little fairy doctor and Tianhuo Zun Jie. Therefore, the cries they were about to emit was forcefully swallowed by them. 2 Do Zuns. This time around, they seemed to have kicked a metal plate. The white-clothed, young man's eyes sank as he looked over the little fairy doctor and Tian Huo Zun Jie. However, he suddenly smiled and said to Xiao Yan, "I am Chen Xian from the Profound Zan sect." "May I know your name?" Profound Zan sect? A thought passed through Xiao Yan's mind when he heard this name. Currently, he had an understanding of the factions within the Central Plains region. This so-called Profound Zan sect possessed a powerful reputation. It was not the least bit inferior to the Ice River Valley. Moreover, it even had traces of surpassing the Ice River Valley because behind this Profound Zan sect was the renowned Profound Sky sect. One of the two renowned sects on the continent. The factions across the Central Plains region were extremely complex. The so-called One Hall, One Tower, Two Sects, Three Valleys, Four Pavilions could not completely encompass all the factions on the Central Plains. The Central Plains was incomparably vast. There were quite a number of factions that kept a low profile. The strength these factions possessed was not much weaker than the ranked factions other than the Hall of Souls and Pill Tower. Some of these hidden factions, like the Jiu clan, could not be underestimated by the Hall of Souls or the Pill Tower. There were three lower sects controlled by the Profound Sky sect. The continent called them the three lower sects. This Profound Zan sect was one of them. The strength of the Profound Zan sect was comparable to even a faction like the Ice River Valley. After all, even if one did not give the Profound Zan sect face, they would have to give the Profound Sky sect face. This ancient sect had been survived through the generations for thousands of years. Its foundation strength was frightening. "I am just an unknown person of the younger generation. There is no need for you to pay any attention. I am the first to find this copper plate, and I do not have any intention of selling it for the time being." Although Xiao Yan knew that this Profound Zan sect was not an ordinary sect, Xiao Yan would not hand this copper plate to the other party because of it. He was not even afraid of the Hall of Souls, much less this Profound Zan sect. A faint gloominess flashed across Chen Xian's dark face when Xiao Yan spoke these unceremonious words. He immediately let out a cold laugh. His gaze turned to the sloppy, old man. Due to Xiao Yan having flicked the copper plate earlier, the copper plate had landed in the old man's hands. "As long as you hand the copper plate to me, I will pay a price that is double his." A chill flashed across Xiao Yan's eyes in the face of Chen Xian's words, that suggested he was rich and powerful. This fellow was really someone who would want a mile if one gave him an inch. The sloppy, old man played with the copper plate in his hand. He looked at Xiao Yan and Chen Xian with some interest. A moment later, he finally smiled and tossed the copper plate to Xiao Yan in front of Chen Xian's eyes. He said, "Everything must be done in an orderly manner. The old me is not someone who would do anything for money. Since I have already accepted his thing, I will naturally not turn around and sell it to other people." A smile surfaced on Xiao Yan's face after he received the copper plate. He cupped his hands to the sloppy, old man and smiled as he said, "Thank you, old mister." The sloppy old man waved his hand and said, "This is the territory of the Pill Tower. I really don't believe that anyone would dare behave atrociously here. Forget about the Profound Zan sect. Even if a member of the Profound Sky sect were to come here today, they would still have to keep themselves in check." An ugly expression flashed across Chen Xian's sinister face when he heard the words of the sloppy, old man. His eyes were ice cold as he stared at the old man. After which, he turned to Xiao Yan and slowly said, "An additional friend is equivalent to an additional path. Offending someone for something that you are unsure of is not reasonable." Xiao Yan smiled. He put the copper plate in his storage ring in front of Chen Xian. After which, he raised his head and looked at Chen Xian. He said, "I'm sorry. I think that I am not blessed to be a friend of yours. I also need this thing. However, if you have the patience to wait, I might give it to you for free once I study it." Xiao Yan once again cupped his hands to the sloppy, old man after speaking. Finally, he raised his foot and walked toward the stairs. HMPH. Xiao Yan had just raised his foot when the two old men, who had just suffered some losses, shifted their bodies and blocked his path. The smile on Xiao Yan's face was slowly withdrawn after his path was blocked. Before he could open his mouth, two majestic auras slowly surged out of the little fairy doctor's and Tian Huo Zun Jie's bodies like floodwater. "If you do not get lost in 3 breaths' time, you'll die." The little fairy doctor's grayish-purple eyes were dangerous as she stared at the two people blocking their path. Killing intent churned within her clear, cold voice. The many people on the top floor were attracted by the auras that had suddenly erupted. However, they were not surprised by the auras of the two Do-Zuns. All of those who could come to this floor had seen many great things. It was frequent for them to meet with elite Do-Zuns. Naturally, there was nothing for them to feel surprised about. The expressions of the two old men changed in the face of the frightening auras of the little fairy doctor and Tianhuo-Zun J. Under this pressure, they reflexively backed off. This was because they could vaguely sense that if they were even a little slower, they might really end up lying here as two cold corpses today. Xiao Yan's dark black eyes faintly glanced at the two red-faced old men who had swiftly pulled back. After which, he turned his head and looked at Chen Xian by the side, who had narrowed his eyes. When their eyes met, Xiao Yan said, "Don't offend me. Otherwise, you will not leave this pill region alive. Trust me." After those words sounded, Xiao Yan ignored Chen Xian's face as it turned chilly. He turned around and walked to the stairs. The little fairy doctor, Tianhuo-Zun J, and Yi Zhang by the side hurriedly followed. Chen Xian's eyes were dark and dense as he glared at the backs of Xiao Yan's group. Only when this group disappeared from his sight did the corner of his mouth part into a dark, icy cold smile. "Old Zan, help me investigate this group of people. KK, it is the first time that this young master has met anyone who would threaten me." "How interesting.